There is a worrying trend of denying that the problems men struggle with exist or are important. Loneliness, sexual frustration, confusion over what is appropriate, pressures to conform, difficulties in dealing with emotions, these are all routinely trivialized and dismissed. Doing so is not helpful and only creates more distrust, hurt feelings and unwillingness to improve. We need to admit that men's problems are real problems and start actually solving them. How many articles have you read that make fun of men's loneliness? How many #MenSoFragile tweets commenting on guys clearly battling with their emotions? How often does a guy speak his pain only to hear, "Oh yeah, women have to deal with insert bigger pain here"? Guys struggling to find their place in a world that is really not what we were told it is are assumed to be unwashed neckbeard man-babies living in their parents' basement and dismissed. And don't forget the classic, men don't struggle with sexual frustration, of course, they just have blue balls. Every time I hear that men should allow themselves to be more vulnerable and talk about their feelings, I think, well, maybe if there wasn't an army waiting to invalidate them, they would. I know where this comes from though. When men talk about our problems, we typically don't really want to solve them, do we? It's hard work. We're humans, and humans are lazy. The best person to do hard work is anyone but me. And we certainly don't want to admit that any of those problems might be our fault. Why, that would certainly imply that it's us who should be solving them. It's much easier to just blame somebody else. And thus, we say we're lonely, and in the same breath, we blame women or demand state-mandated wives. We struggle with our emotions, but instead of working on them, we just demand others stop making us feel so bad. We can't find our place in the world, so we force others back into a world that was more convenient for us. Instead of solving our problems, we just try to make them other people's problems. And what's worse, we often do it in a way that threatens them and their interests. Women in particular don't want to become sexual servants just so that straight men don't experience sexual frustration. Neither do they want to return to oppressive gender roles so we don't have to figure out our emotions or place in the world. As we try to address our problems in such ways, perhaps it's no wonder that others refuse to engage and instead trivialize them or deny they exist. But that is not to say that men are just wrong all the time. Many of us genuinely want to improve, but are disheartened when we see our very real problems treated with condescension. We hurt, we struggle, and those we would appreciate help from are rubbing salt into our wounds while mocking us. "Oh no, poor fragile man baby, does it hurt?" We hear that feminism, despite the name, is not just about women's issues. It's about gender equality. It's about making the world better for all genders. But when men struggle, many feminists turn their backs. Not our problem. It often seems that they aren't really interested in resolving the systemic issues that cause all gendered problems. They just want men to stop acting out those problems in ways that annoy them. They don't want to cure the wound, they just want to slap on a plaster so we stop bleeding on them. I guess they're just as human as men are, laziness and all. But let's be clear here, it is not their job to cure our wounds. No one should ever expect that women or feminists will sort our problems for us. That's our job. But sorting out our own wounds isn't exactly made easier by others rubbing salt into them at the same time. So the truth is, we all need to step up. You might be watching this thinking, wait, do men actually have that many problems that aren't just, human problems? What's all this about anyway? Well, let me offer you a short list of what I see men struggle with. Note that some of those problems are faced by men who want to date women, but most are not. Note also that I intentionally omit all that the manosphere guys like to bring up, like wars, homelessness, suicide. Whatever you think about those things, it's just not that most men struggle with them on a daily basis. Instead, the question most of us face are: how do we live in a world that professes all the lofty values, wants us to be kind, vulnerable and equal, but still rewards us for being dominant, aggressive and outright toxic? How to not feel useless when traditional male roles are just not needed anymore? How do we develop new values and beliefs when our social groups often pressure us to stick to the old ways? How do we deal with loneliness, either by accepting it or by finding a partner? How do we deal with sexual frustration, and how do we even know when we actually want sex and when sex is just a proxy for other emotional needs that we're having? How do we feel desired and wanted in a world in which women are still very unlikely to actively pursue men? What do different women actually want from us, as long-term partners, as short-term lovers, as friends, colleagues, people? How do we express our desire and admiration for women without being creepy? How do we remain sexually confident and pursue sex while at the same time respecting other people's consent? How do we become more emotionally intelligent and allow ourselves to be vulnerable when others, and that's including those who want this from us, will exploit it to call us fragile and make us feel horrible? How do we raise our sons to be better, but also ensure that they are not bullied by those who would exploit their vulnerability? How do we listen to women and make them feel heard, but without at the same time implying that they are always right? How do we stand our ground when we think that we are right, but don't want to mansplain or abuse our privilege and power? And which of our behaviors are really inappropriate, and when are people just being overly sensitive over nothing? None of those questions have easy answers, and there are dozens more, and you should definitely share some of your own in the comments. What is really annoying about all of those problems is that they just cannot be solved once and for all and for everyone. When we had a problem with dying from bacterial infections, Alexander Fleming showed up, created penicillin, and now you can just take a pill. Job done. But obviously this will not work in here. It's not even that we are all different, so the way those problems come up is a bit different for all of us, but rather it's because dealing with them is a skill, and skills are something each one of us needs to develop for himself. It's like figuring out how to be an inspiring leader, a good friend, even a great gamer. You can't just take a pill or read a definition and suddenly you're sorted. You need to gain the skill yourself. Think it through, read about it, talk about it, and most of all, practice it. And equally importantly, nobody can do it for you. If you want to be a great gamer but can't be bothered improving, you can't just ask a friend to do it for you. Even less so, you can't just ask everyone else to stop playing so well so you then feel left behind. No, just put some goddamn effort in and get better at it yourself. Okay, so what do we do? Like I said, those problems won't solve themselves. We need to step up, all of us. And to break it down a little, here are several steps each one of us should take. First of all, we need to acknowledge that these are genuine, real and serious problems and our emotions around them are valid. Then men need to resist the urge to push them onto somebody else, blame others for them, or otherwise avoid having to deal with them. At the same time, others need to resist the urge to deny their validity or importance. Next, men should work out how to deal with these problems in theory. Read, think, watch, meet to discuss them, and shameless self-promotion in here, subscribe to my channel and follow me on social media for some ideas. But obviously, theory is never enough. Men should also put this theory into practice, again and again and again, and when needed, they should ask for help. Meanwhile, others, especially those who profess to fight for gender equality, not just to make life better for women, should actually offer this help and support men when they are doing the work. Just be a good ally to us. This might all sound easy, but as with everything that matters in life, it's actually incredibly hard. Don't expect to succeed immediately. Have patience for those who are doing the work, but inspire, kick and motivate those who are not. In the end, we are all in the same boat. We all want those problems solved. And as much as human laziness makes us all want to demand that others should do all the hard work, we really need to do it ourselves. The good news is, like with any hard work well done, it will feel great once you've done it. Alright, that's it for now. If you'd like to hear more about the specific problems men struggle with and how to address them, subscribe to my channel and check out the stuff I post on social media. I'm Dr. Simon Vogt, philosopher and explorer of masculinity, handing you the man's compass.